Much, Chairman Herzog, for joining us today. Really, your time I know is very valuable. Also, I'm sure that the tragedies that took place last week are also placing additional demands on you, both emotionally and in your role within the Jewish Agency. So we really
Thank
value.
you, Rabbi Rosenblatt. I have a huge respect for the Jewish community in Vancouver and to your congregation, which seems a thriving and successful and beautiful community. And thank you for leading it and for the initiatives. Yes, we went through a difficult week in which we were all, uh, 10 out of the 45 casualties are Jews who came from diaspora all over the world, including from Canada. I participated in a funeral of a 19-year-old Shiva Bocher who studied in Shalavim. He was on our Masa program, and he went to Meron himself. There were thousands of people, and on the web there were 50,000 viewers, which shows you the greatness of the Jewish people and how one sees that their heart beats together, the Jewish heart. And our community is strong because the parents told us how the community kind of covered them and supported them. It was pretty impressive to hear and see. And we initiated a special assistance fund to the families, the bereaved families, together with the Federation in Toronto. So I think it's also a way to show Kol Israel Arvim Ze Baze.
100%. It's unfortunate that sometimes the greatest value of community is expressed in its most difficult and bitter moments. That
True, absolutely. I
which
think it's always been like that, but I think we should also respect the positive sides and the positive moments, and clearly have less divisiveness within us, at least the wishful thinking.
It's true. But if I were to draw a parallel to medicine, unfortunately, people who are sick and feel their pain, they'll take their medicine. Once they get better, sometimes they say, I feel better. What do I need the medicine for? And then they fail to take it. Community, I think, is a similar piece. Is that it's such a valuable part of what the Jewish community is, that when we are in times of trouble, we feel the need for community immensely. It's when we feel that time of freedom that sometimes it dissipates. And I think,
But look, community is at the heart of Jewish life. I met today a group of young Mechina kids, and I said to them, so think for a moment, what does a Jewish community abroad need? What's the first thing you want to hear about? In fact, they didn't mention Bet Knesset, synagogue. I was a bit worried about it. They mentioned JCC, they mentioned education, they mentioned values, they mentioned unity. I said, what about Bet Knesset? It's the heart of the community. And in fact, during COVID, the Jewish Agency, which I lead, the biggest Jewish organization in the world, we supported over 75 communities around the world who were literally in collapse, literally paralyzed. We gave them special interest-free loans to inject oxygen to
mm,
the system because first and foremost, the institutions of the community collapsed. Now, the issue is, of course, to keep the community going, to keep the main institutions going. And clearly, as a community, you're one big family. It's clear. And it's very impressive always to see.
I think one of the challenges that we feel, is that we want community to be a viral entity, a self-reinforcing piece. And that's what I'm wondering, if you guys have seen any particular magic. What are the secret sauces that help to ensure that, especially in a very modern world, a very distracting world, you can get a community to return to its viral, self-regenerating stage?
That's a beautiful question. First and foremost, I believe the moral compass of its leaders, and which is, of course, the spiritual leaders, people like yourself, Rabbi, who show the way to families, to the individuals, and that people follow suit and understand, how important it is for their life. It's kind of a spiritual food for their life. Then, of course, financial. Nobody argues that financial is a very important issue. and clearly, to hold a Jewish school, which is usually private abroad, or the ability to hold the JCC or the institutions is always something dependent on the financial resources. North America, for example, is a beautiful example of a very organized structure of community that is self-sustainable, and all in all went through COVID in a very impressive way. But there are communities around the world who are weakening, who are aging, who are dwindling. There's a movement to the major cities around the Jewish world. And finally, I believe you need younger leadership in communities. We see in our data that 50% of the Masa participants make Aliyah and 50% go back to the communities and serve as leaders. It attracts the spirit of giving to the other. And I urge to build a younger leadership in communities like a secret of success to organizations.
It it truly is I think the 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 first and last thing we think about every day is how to really reach out and to provide meaning to those younger children, or I guess those that young leadership. Is there? Do you think that the what are the features of this Masa program? Is it the fact that they experience Am Yisrael that makes them feel more connected? Is it what do you think it is about?
So let me explain. We focus heavily. We are the biggest Jewish organization in the world, the Sochnut, the Jewish agency. We were originally commissioned to bring about the creation of the Jewish homeland, following the famous Balfour Declaration. And we did that. We were led by David Ben-Gurion and Chaim Weizmann. And then we were commissioned to bring Aliyah to Israel. Following the creation of Israel, we brought over 4 million Olim, and we are going strong. Even during COVID, we brought 21,000 Olim from 45 countries in the year of COVID. And we expect a major wave of Aliyah from all over the world, including from Canada, following COVID. But the most important element of our activity is what we call connecting the Jewish people to one another and to the state of Israel at heart. We bring around 100,000 young people to Israel every year to see their nation state. It starts with birthright as the basic layer of 10 days. And then we have Masa, which is a program that brings them for a year. And then many other adjacent programs such as Onward and other ITC, many programs that bring them to all sorts of experiences, including professional experience, teaching experiences, learning experiences, and so forth, and volunteering and so forth. And we send emissaries to communities like we have in your community, the Shlichim and Shinshinim, 18-year-old gap year kids who work in your schools and kindergarten and synagogues, or all the way up to fellows on campus, including UBC, who work there to defend the good name of Israel or connect the community through Shlichut. And by that, also, we have twinning programs of schools in Israel and abroad, partnerships between communities. The Canadian communities are partnering with a major town and city in Israel, and so forth and so on. The whole idea is to get to know each other, to respect each other, to understand the pluralistic nature of Jewish life abroad, to understand what it is to be a Jew abroad, and the questions of identity that is faced by young people outside Israel.
So, but I guess coming l'sakem to really boil it down, ultimately it comes down to connection.
Absolutely, and that's why when I say that the physical interaction, the Zoom interaction, the idea that people interact and see for themselves, that it's not filtered, and by the way, not filtered also by way of kind of give them the one, only one type of narrative, but show them the entire view, the entire vista, which is so very much important. And I believe there are many challenges to Jews. Anti-Semitism is still there big time, also in Canada. And you have issues of people who want to join our nation. And you have the security issues of the state of Israel. and the building of the nation and the multifaceted nature of Judaism and so forth and so on. You
Right.
know, my late uncle, Yaakov Herzog, was a legendary ambassador to Canada in the 60s, 1960s. And he impacted the entire Jewish community in Canada.
Right.
And when he spoke then, it was Israel, embryonic Israel, young Israel. Now Israel is 73 years old. It must extend its hands to the community, see how it can strengthen Jewish life and communal life for Jews wherever they are.
It's interesting that you talk about the unfiltered narrative. As part of this project, we have Professor Aknin who is participating, and she shared with us the basic, I guess, psychology of groups. And Professor Aknin's conceptualization is the things that create rewarding and self-sustaining groups are essentially three things. It needs to have purpose. I think Medinat Israel has that, the survival of the Jewish people, and in a larger sense, I think we have a lot to contribute in terms of culture, in terms of what we add to the world, not just in terms of survival. Then the second one is connection, which you spoke about very significantly. But the third one, which is sort of the most, is I guess the one that is not as intuitive, is that you need choice. That in order to have a successful group, people need to feel that they have a choice within it, or a sense to contribute. And I guess maybe I'd just ask you, what are the ways in which we might be able to see the enduring contributions of communities like Vancouver and the diaspora to Medinat Israel? And I can tell you, in terms of what Medinat Israel can give us, you mentioned the Shinshinim, but I will say I need Bogrei Yeshiva, I need Yeshiva graduates, I need Rabbanim who are willing to take Shlichut 2, 3, 5 years and come out here. But just to boil down the question.
So are you working with Torah Metzion? Because that's an organization we work with very closely. We send yeshiva graduates to work in synagogues and communities abroad. If you send me an email, I'll connect you to them.
I'll be happy to. We work with Or Torah Stone mostly.
Or Torah Stone is a wonderful organization. I love them. I love Rabbi Riskin and Rabbi Brender, and I think they're doing an incredible job in connecting Jews and creating adequate Jewish content.
But coming back to the question about what is the best thing that Jews in Vancouver can do to feel a sense of ownership or stakeholder or contributor to the state of Israel?
Okay, so first and foremost, I think that your young cohorts must visit Israel. I know it's far away, but they must do that. Secondly, I would love to increase the presence of our representatives, and especially the young ones, in your communities, in your synagogue, and in the congregations all around. And I hope our team will be discussing it with you. But most importantly is to bring the truth. There's a lot of diatribe and a lot of false information about Israel running around the world, a lot of BDS. I went to UBC and met with the president of the university because there was a lot of such activity also on the Hillel side that they are working very hard against it. I believe the true picture of Israel has to be told. You can criticize Israeli policy like you criticize Canadian government policy. That has nothing to do with the inherent right of the Jewish people for their own self-determination. And this is the new phenomena which is intertwined with basic anti-Semitism. You know, I have family in Toronto, and they were faced with a wave of swastikas. And I want to tell you, I never believed that in Canada you'll see a wave of swastikas. But you have that, like in any other nation. You have to fight it. You have to educate. You have to explain. You must not be deterred. Same goes in your case. You're a small community, 30,000 Jews in Vancouver. But it's a thriving, successful Jewish community with excellent leadership. And as such, one has to first and foremost bring the know-how about Israel, the real Israel, evolving society, Jews from the Muslim countries, Jews from FSU countries, Jews from over 120 countries, a melting pot, and the whole story of what it is to be Jewish and the debate around it. And once people understand the facts, they feel a stronger affinity with their identity.
Um, it's interesting because we even have in our community we even have some Ethiopian Jews, and
That's terrific.
uh,
And we are now we brought 2,000 more, and we are working hard to bring so much more and to finalize this saga. In fact, my late grandfather, Rabbi Herzog, was the first chief rabbi of Israel. He was the one who recognized them as Jews in 1954. And then Rabbi Ovadia Yosef based his judgment on his ruling.
oh, okay. Well, I didn't know that about your. I knew about Rabbi
It's in
Ovadia
the
Yosef.
room. I'm sitting in the room from where David Ben Gurion led us to independence in Jerusalem. And it's hanging, this judgment of my grandfather is hanged on the wall.
Really? Wow. That's. I mean, that is one area where I have membership who would like to to help. I mean, it's a very
So
difficult.
first of all, there's a beautiful biography of Rabbi Herzog that came out in English. It's called The Rabbinate in Stormy Days, The Life and Teaching of Rabbi Isaac Halevi Herzog by Geffen Publishing. And you can find it and you'll read
Oh,
all about my late grandfather.
wow. I know about some of his. He was a chemist as well.
My
Correct.
grandfather had his PhD in marine biology. He wrote it in 12 languages and he discovered the dying purple and the blue,
Yeah.
which is the color of this beautiful flag that you see on my left.
Yes. I think it's a the it. I mean, I think that the people sometimes don't appreciate that the flag of Medinat Israel is meant to represent the Talit with the
And the
Tchelet.
tchelet, absolutely. And the talit and the light blue, which my late grandfather discovered. It's a marine biology official discovery in the Sorbonne.
On my Talit is that very Tchelet.
That's
So
beautiful.
so and I think one of the beautiful things um about that the imagery of the Tchelet is the Tchelet is meant to represent the sky, and that it means that we the Jews, whose uniform do we wear? We don't wear the Canucks
The
uniform. No,
Almighty.
right, exactly. Not Beitar Tel Aviv, but we wear God's colors. And
Exactly.
I was recently in Mosaic Artzot HaMikra, and they show
The
that
Bible Lands Museum, that was exactly my grandfather's thesis on
oh,
on the blue. Yeah.
but they also in there they have very interesting. They show that people used to use the knots of the tchelet as a seal, so it was a way of like a chotem. So
Interesting.
so with our tchelet, they say the chotamo shel Hakadosh Baruch Hu emet, the seal of Hashem
Emet.
is truth.
Beautiful.
So to that extent, I think there's a very
So we
special.
went even into marine biology, but as we get into the concluding remarks, Rabbi, I believe that actually there's something metaphysical in being Jewish. The fact that we feel affinity. If we were like a Jew from Vancouver and myself would land anywhere, we would bond together immediately because we feel like brothers and sisters.
I think that's super important, and to remember that in all of the arguments and all of the struggles and the challenges for us to come back together is to remember that it's this family, bringing it back to these who the reason you had 50,000 people on that funeral is because we all feel like a family, and I think our
We do.
challenge going forward is to preserve that feeling of family in both the happy times as well as in the tragic times.
Exactly. Thank you very much. I hope to visit your community. I hope you guys visit Israel soon
B'simcha
and make
rabah.
sure that our emissaries will get to the community and work with you guys.
Okay, thank you so much.
בהצלחה to all of you and may you have a wonderful Shavuot.
To you too. To you too.
Bye
All
bye.
the best.